Good evening, everybody. Parshat Vaeschanan is always the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av. And so within the and the Haftorah, similar to the fame of last week's Haftorah, this week's Haftorah is also very famous. In other words, just like last week is famous and it's called Shabbat Chazon, Shabbat of Vision, this Shabbat is called Shabbat Nachamu, because it's a prophecy of Isaiah where Yeshayahu Hanavi says, Nachmu, Nachmu, Ami. He's quoting Hashem, where Hashem says, my nation, please be consoled. Okay. And we're starting today, Parshas Vaeschanan starts, Parshas Vaeschanan, the beginning of the Parsha, would be Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23 is where it starts. And it's a full Parsha because you have in here three highlights are all in this week's Torah portion. One highlight, maybe you'd call it a low light, I don't really know, is the Torah reading for the morning of Tisha B'Av. In the afternoon of Tisha B'Av, we read the regular Torah reading for a fast day. But the morning of Tisha B'Av, we read a special Torah reading just for the morning of Tisha B'Av. And that Torah reading is in Parshat Vaeschanan. Now, the reason it's in Parshat Vaeschanan is because the rabbis got together and they wanted to make life easier for the rabbis in perpetuity. So if they made the special Torah reading somewhere else in the Torah, now we'd have to get up early that morning and start rolling the Torah. But Parshat Vaeschanan is already the weekly Torah portion this week, so every shul has already a Torah scroll roll to Vaeschanan.
Is that a joke?
Of course it's a joke, yes. So on Tisha B'Av morning, you don't have to roll the Torah for the morning reading. It's right there where it needs to be. Okay. And that's one highlight of this week's Torah portion. The second highlight of this week's Torah portion is the second reading of the Ten Commandments. This is where Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the Aseret HaDibrot. That'll be in tomorrow's Torah reading. And the third highlight of this week's Torah portion is the first paragraph of Shema. Everybody knows Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad and V'ahavta. That's in this week's Torah portion. And of course, any person that's ever put on tefillin, it's inside their tefillin, and every mezuzah has the Torah portion of Shema in it. So this is pretty famous full Torah portion that is always in conjunction with Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of consolation.
Not all of Shema is in here, right?
No, Shema through Uvisharecha V'ahavta. And then V'haya im Shamoa, which is the second paragraph of Shema, that's going to be in next week's Torah portion. And then that's going to be in next week's Torah portion. And the third Torah portion, the Parsha of Tzitzis, is in Bamidbar. We passed that already. We read it already a while ago. Okay. So what's the connection between all of these? And Tisha B'Av and the Nachmu Ami. Okay. So when you start to look at the Torah portion for Tisha B'Av, that starts that is chapter 4 of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 of Devarim, and it begins at verse 25. Verse 25 of chapter 4. That's the beginning. It's an excerpt out of this week's Torah portion, as I said, where we're talking about this is a special Torah reading for Tisha B'Av in the morning. And it starts off in verse 25. You're going to have children, you're going to have grandchildren. No. If you could, please. Thank you. You have children and grandchildren. You'll grow old in the land, and you will lapse and make an idol, an image of anything, and thereby do evil in the eyes of Hashem your God, to provoke his anger. Okay? And that's where Hashem warns us that he's going to scatter us amongst all the nations, and we'll wind up in Golos and all the things that are going to go on. But there's an interesting statement here in verse 29. Uvikashta mishamas Hashem alekecha umatzasa. From there you will seek Hashem, and you're going to find him. When you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. So those are excerpted verses from the Torah reading, which we'll be reading of this coming Thursday morning, the morning of Tisha B'Av. But let's talk about it thematically. What is it? What is really the message of this Torah portion? And how does that apply to Tisha B'Av? Well, it's going to be easy how it applies to Tisha B'Av once we see what the theme is. So the theme of this Torah portion is a very simple one. We've always talked about that complacency, that an easy life breeds complacency. And complacency ultimately will lead you to a place of tremendous darkness where you're going to go off the way. It's that way. I mean, today there's a million people out there talking about marital relationships. Everybody's talking about it. And how to fix your marriage, how to maintain your marriage, how to keep your marriage, how to get married, how not to get married. It's everything under the sun. This is a very popular topic, right? Generally, the recurring theme in almost all of these talks or whatever, books, essays, etc., the recurring theme is that if you don't work it, it goes away. Just like exercise and your six-pack, and we're not talking about Budweiser, not that six-pack. If you stop working out, you're going to become flabby. That's what's going to happen. You worked out like a Vaeschanan from age 10 till age 30. You worked out every day, an hour every day, and at age 30, you were like straight out of an exercise magazine. You stop, by the time you're age 31, you're Mr. Flab. You're the Pillsbury Doughboy. It's a fact, Jack. I mean, it is what it is, right? So, but the thing is here, so that theme is here. Okay. And that's not a new theme. That's not unique. And it's certainly not unique to our class, for sure not. And the history of the Jewish people is filled with becoming too comfortable in wherever it was that we wound up. And that led us to complacency, led us to assimilation, led us to behaving more goyish than the goyim, and led us always to genocide. Rahman al-Islam. Every single time. This cycle has repeated itself, not just in the 2,000 years since the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. This cycle has repeated itself literally since we became a nation. As a nation, you could go all the way back to Midian, right? And Bilam. And that's exactly what happened there. So, yeah.
How about complacency on individual or national level?
Both.
How does it start?
It starts individually.
Also for the nations, it starts with Noah, right?
Right, exactly. Yes, exactly. You can go all the way back to Noah, right. The flood came because people became very comfortable with their lives. They lived a very long time, etc. You're right. Yes. Okay. We're going to take it one step further. We're going to take it a step further. And I pointed this out from a Maimon of the Rebbe a couple of nights ago. I want to think of a good analogy for it. When you're working out in the gym, if you have a personal trainer, that personal trainer is making your life a misery. He's making your life a misery. You get down and you bench press, whatever you bench press, and you're feeling good about yourself. And the first thing he does is he adds more barbells. And you sit there and you go, I think I had enough for today. And what does he say?
No, keep going.
We're just getting started here. We're just getting started here, right? And if you ever watch this in action, and you had no idea what really was going on, yeah, you would say, what the hell is his name? This guy's up, torturing this poor guy. He's Pasha torturing him. If you had no idea what was going on, that's what you would think, right? And then if afterwards you found out that the guy that was being tortured is paying this guy, not stop paying him. The worse the torture, the more he's getting paid, right? So if you're watching from the sidelines, your reaction is, I don't know which one is sicker. The Meshuggah masochist who's letting himself be tortured and paying to be tortured? Or the sycophant who's having fun torturing other people while he's getting paid? I don't know who's worse. I'm right or I'm wrong? But of course, that's not what's going on. What is the trainer thinking the whole time, and what is he actually saying? We're going to bring out the new energies and powers and stuff that you didn't even know you had. And that's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to shock you with what you can accomplish. Right? And the more he's able to shock you with what you can accomplish, and the more exhausted you are at the end of the workout, the more exhilarated you are, and the more you'll pay him, and the more you'll tell all your friends to pay him. And the more your friends will pay him, the more he's going to charge. His price is just going to keep going up. So what's really going on here? Hashem is telling us something incredible. And the Rebbe says this at a mimer. The purpose of Golus is to get us to do what we really can do. That's what Golus is about. Absent Golus, could be we'll all be from.
You mean it's the antidote for complacency?
Huh?
It's the antidote for complacency.
The ultimate antidote for complacency. You have no choice. Rise to the occasion, dude.
So why couldn't that have been built into the Torah prior to having that?
Okay, that's a really good question. That's a good question, and I'll allow us to digress slightly to that. Okay. You could even ask the question the opposite. It's the same question, but you could ask it the other way around. How is Golos the way to get us to the ultimate goal? And what's the answer? The answer is, okay, so now we have to understand the nature of Golos. The nature of exile. What does it mean? We have, within the context of all of creation, we have light and darkness. First thing Hashem created. Before Hashem created light and darkness already existed as creation was created. But they were birvuvia. They were interwoven with each other. What does Hashem do? Hashem separates the light from the darkness. So that there's a stark contrast, so that you can actually see light versus darkness. You can experience and now see what it is, the contrast between light and darkness. What's the purpose of that?
Can't have one without the other.
The purpose of that is so that you could ultimately realize that the darkness is actually the most intense light. If the light and the darkness were commingled, you'd never be able to realize how powerful that light is. Let me give you this is a mystical concept, but let me give it to you in a very, very practical way, an extraordinarily practical way. The tzaddik looks at the Baal Tshuva, and dafka the tzaddik. No one more than the tzaddik understands how incredibly powerful the Baal Tshuva is. Because the tzaddik has this incredible appreciation for the revealed light and the concealed light. Concealed light, otherwise known as? Thank you. It was a softball. Right? The tzaddik appreciates that there's concealed light there. And therefore, but he knows that he's not capable of accessing it. He can't actually come in contact with it. And therefore he looks at the Baal Tshuva and goes, wow. Wow, you figured out how to touch the stovetop without getting burned.
I mean, it would be an intentional sin for him to touch the darkness, to access the darkness.
What?
You're saying darkness as
No, the tzaddik appreciates the intense light that manifests itself as darkness in the most incredible, exquisite way. But he also knows that he's not capable of interacting with it. Because he's a tzaddik.
Because that would be a sin for him.
No, because he's a tzaddik. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have the tools.
Okay. But see, the Baal Tshuva.
Let me try to give it to you in yet another form. Okay, the Medrash says on one of the last verses in the Torah that Hashem shows Moshe Rabbeinu the land of Israel ad hayam ha'acharon, till the sea on the other side. So he's east of the Jordan. Think of it that way. He's looking west, right? And Hashem shows him all the way to the Mediterranean. That's the sea on the other side. Right? Says the Medrash. Don't read it Hayam Ha'acharon. Read it instead Ad Hayom Ha'acharon. That Hashem shows Moshe Rabbeinu before he passes away all of history until Mashiach comes. Ad Hayom Ha'acharon. And the Medrash says, Moshe Rabbeinu looks at the generation that's referred to in the Gemara as Ikvasa de Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach, the last generation before Mashiach comes. And Moshe Rabbeinu looks at that generation and goes, wow, I don't even understand how they're going to survive that. This is a Medrash. Moshe Rabbeinu looks at the final generation before Mashiach comes, and he says, I'm blown away. I don't think the Medrash used the words blown away. I'm trying to remember it by heart, but I don't think blown away is in the Medrash. Those exact words. Someone just sent me a clip recently of one of Reagan's. Reagan was the master of the one-liner. His first State of the Union address. So he begins the State of the Union address tonight. I come to you for the first time. It's the first State of the Union address, and this is a time-honored tradition that the president presents this. It goes all the way back to George Washington, and he quotes how George Washington described how important the State of the Union address is. He quotes George Washington, and then he paused and he goes, now, the people in the press are very picky about being very exact on the details. So for full disclosure, I want to say I did not actually hear George Washington say that. That's what he said. Classic. That's a classic Reagan. Classic Ronald Reagan. Anyway, so I didn't actually hear Moshe Rabbeinu say this, and I'm not quoting the Medrash verbatim, but Moshe Rabbeinu says he's blown away by the last generation of Golos. What blew Moshe Rabbeinu away about the last generation of Golos? What makes him so awestruck by the last generation of Golos? Because the last generation of Golos will be utterly intertwined with the most intense light, manifest as the most incredibly consuming darkness, and they're going to thrive. I'm paraphrasing the Medrash because he says, I don't understand how these people in the last generation of four Golos are still going to hold on to Torah mitzvahs. How are they going to get through that?
In Egypt, it was better. The darkness was not as dark as it was.
Correct. Of course not. Why not? What's the proof? Egypt was before Matan Torah. By definition, the stakes weren't as high. Matan Torah changed everything. The revelation of Mount Sinai changed everything. Changed the light, it changed the darkness, it changed how the light interacts with the darkness. So by definition, Mitzrayim couldn't have been as bad. Right. I don't know. Of course, I have no frame of reference. I wasn't in Egypt. Right? But I don't know. The Medrash says some awful, awful stuff that happened in Mitzrayim. Really awful stuff in the suffering that we went through. Holocaust? I don't know. I don't know if Mitzrayim beats the Holocaust. You know, it's been a long time since the Holocaust already, and you know it's part of the vernacular. But the Holocaust was really bad. That anyone who survived the Holocaust was able to start over again and rebuild their lives, anyone, is to me, yeah. I'm not even talking about Chas v'Shalom, those people who said, if this is God, I'm out. And you can't blame them. Chas v'Shalom. You can't blame them or judge them. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking to people who said, this is Hashem's way. Okay, I still believe. But how do you pick yourself up and start a life again after that? Moshe Rabbeinu looks at that and goes, somewhere deep down, they're going to have to find the absolute essence of their souls as it is connected to the absolute essence of God for them to be able to overcome this darkness. And what's most important, says Moshe to himself, is that they're going to have to do it without that illumination. Because the illumination becomes a handicap. In an ironic twist, almost a catch-22. You understand why, right? If you're in a state of illumination, then you feel like you got it. If you're consumed by darkness, you're looking for it. No matter what, I'm going to keep searching till I find the light. But if you're in a state of illumination, if you're a big Talmid Chacham, if you're a holy Jew, if you're a tzaddik, you're Baal Yirah Shamayim, etc., you're scrupulous in your Shmiras Mitzvahs, that light, which is beautiful. It's all beautiful. It's all beautiful. It's all good news. It's all what we're supposed to do, etc., etc., etc. But it comes with its own set of challenges and its own challenge. What's the challenge? Intense spiritual complacency. I use hyperbole for purpose, not that chas v'shalom. I'm not putting anybody down. Chas v'shalom. It's all beautiful. Yeah? What could be better? I sit in a kollel 11 hours a day and I study Torah and I do mitzvahs. And I come home to my wife We're not rich because I'm sitting in a koil, but who cares? We're living a Torah life, and we have children, and we're bringing up kids in Darchei Torah and Darchei Mitzvahs, and our house is a house that's filled with light. And you know what? It is filled with light, not imaginary light. It's a house that's filled with light. Having said that, and as beautiful as it is, and again, chas v'shalom, not putting it down. Chas v'shalom, not putting it down. But such a person doesn't even appreciate, let alone could he enjoy the taste, in quotes, of flagging somebody down at the farmer's market and putting on phone with him. He neither appreciates it nor could he understand the taste of it. Because he can't wrap his head around it. Why can't he wrap his head around it? Because he's in a state of light. He's in an illuminated state. Who can blame him? I don't blame him. Again, not blaming, not judging, not putting it down, not chas v'shalom saying it's a bad thing. God forbid. Sitting and learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, unbelievable. You're fulfilling Hashem's will. You're fulfilling Hashem's will. Chas v'shalom. Not ridiculing it on any level.
You're saying that the concealed light is not accessible to him.
Completely not. He can't, because he's blinded by the revealed light. He's blinded by the revealed light.
Why isn't the revealed light not still?
If he's sitting all day long, if he's sitting all day long surrounded by chocolate danishes, ice cream, cookies, lollipops, you have no way to appreciate spicy tuna with hot sauce on it. What were you going to say?
I don't understand why isn't there just as much revealed light by putting on the film as there is on
It isn't putting on film, you're revealing the concealed light. The guy who's living in the revealed light says it's bittul Torah. Are you crazy?
Is it really? Because
Of course not.
No, you're talking about putting tefillin on with somebody else.
That's what I'm saying.
Is that
Yeah.
what you're talking
that's what
about?
I'm talking about.
Yeah. The guy who's living in the revealed light says, someone sent me a clip a couple of years ago of again, this is not a judgment, chas v'shalom. It's not a judgment whatsoever. Not a judgment, not ridiculing on any level. It's just a statement of fact. A Rosh Yeshiva or a Mashgiach, he's talking to a Besmedrash filled with Bacharim. And he's trying to convince them, because today, even the Litvish yeshivas, there's many kiruv organizations. We don't have the exclusive on it anymore. We may be the Rolls Royce, but we don't have the exclusive. That's not boasting. That's the truth. This is the truth. Okay? But we're not the only kiruv organization anymore. And these guys are going to take some time off in the summer, some of these Bachrim, Yeshiva Bachrim and a Litvish Yeshiva, to go do these summer, there's a project called Seed, I don't know, various one of these programs. And this Rosh Yeshiva / Mashgiach, I don't know what his position was in the yeshiva, is borderline screaming at them that he said, these were his words, every single Bachar in this yeshiva is a suffix, in other words, potential, might be the Gadol Ador of the next generation, the greatest leader of the next generation of Torah scholars. Every one of you has the potential to be the greatest leader of Torah scholars of the next generation. These were his exact words. I'm quoting him verbatim, because when I saw it the first time, I was like, my eyes almost popped out of my head, so I had to watch it again a few times just to make sure that this guy really said this. And he said, and therefore, every minute you take off from learning Torah to go work on one of these projects is asur. It's absolutely prohibited. Because it will slow you down from becoming the Gadol Ador of the next generation. Now, again, I'm not judging. I'm not putting it down. I'm stating a fact. Absolutely, I think he's wrong. Are you surprised that I think he's wrong? I mean, I'm a Chabadnik.
But there's a place for both, or no? I mean, there's.
So the Tzemach Tzedek, third lineage Chabad leaders on this topic, we're a little bit off the base. So I want to tie it back because I can't stay long tonight. But the Tzemach Tzedek writes, Tzemach Tzedek promises that anybody that'll get involved in reaching out to other Jews, it's the third generation of Chabad, it's 4 generations ago, anyone that will put in the effort to help other Jews grow in Torah and mitzvot, he promises this person, Naasin moichin v'liben zakoyin elef pa'amim kacha. I am promising you that your mind and your heart will become 1,000 times as clear as it was before. In other words, if it took you an hour to learn a page of Gemara, you're going to be able to learn 1,000 pages of Gemara in that hour.
So this goes along with what Kirkala says. That he whose wisdom will observe.
Yes. Yes.
Why is Rosh Hashiva?
I don't want. I'm not commenting on his shita, on whether right or wrong. I already said I disagree with the shita. But what brings a guy to say something like that? The reason someone would say something like that is because he's a Rosh Hashiva in a yeshiva where he walks in every single morning. There's a kol Torah. It's a beautiful thing. I was a yeshiva bacha for enough years. I loved being in a big beis medrash where there's a kol Torah. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to go into a room and there's the cacophony of learning of Torah, and it's like it's palpable in the room. The walls shake. You can feel it, right? So he's so deeply involved in the revealed light that he can't even fathom or appreciate what it's like to reveal the concealed light. And that's what's going on here. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us, be careful not to become so caught up in the revealed light that you will become complacent. You're going to become fat. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, etc., etc. And the result is going to be you're going to make idols. What do you mean?
How do you make idols by being caught up in revealed light?
You really want me to answer that question?
Of course, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'll answer that question. Okay? The notion that you would stand up in front of a beis medrash full of bachrim and tell them that every one of them is a safek gadol ador of the next door is pure idolatry. That is self-worship. That's not why you learn Torah. The person who sits and learns Torah to become the gadol ador of the next door is an arrogant, self-aware, self-absorbed oived avodah zarah. He's not chas v'shalom bowing down to idols, but that's the trickle-down effect.
It's the opposite of learning Torah for its own sake.
Correct.
It's the exact thing that we
Right. And what's called learning Torah for its own sake? How do you know when you're learning Torah for its own sake? When you do the mission Hashem gave you, which is to transform the world. If all you're doing is you're focusing on elevating your little tiny little that's my. That's ego. That's idolatry. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is warning them about. That even at that high level, and he's explaining to them that what will happen as a result, if you don't do this on your own, is that Hashem will have no choice but to scatter you amongst the nations. That's what's going to happen. Why? Because the only way to get you to do it, he's going to have to push you out, The guy who trained for the prize fight for the last 3 years, and then the night comes, and he's walking towards the ring, and he sees that other guy wearing gloves, who looks more like a picture than a human being. And he goes, oh, I'm not done. I'll see you later. I gotta get away, right? And along comes his coach and says, you've been training for this. You can do this. You're going to be able to achieve it. Get in there, and pushes him into the ring. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us is going on here. You want to know what Tisha B'Av is? You want to know what Golus is? It's all about reaching the point where it will be kashta mishamis Hashem alekecha u'masasa ki sedeshenu b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha. It's all about being able to, when you're there, because dafka there, uvikashta mishamis Hashem alekecha. That's where you're going to seek out God, the Lord your God. Because when you're sitting at home, everything's peaceful. You're not searching for Hashem.
Can you translate from others what you just
Best case scenario, you're seeking self-fulfillment. That's best case scenario.
or can you translate what you just said?
Ubikashta mishamas Hashem alekecha. When you're going to be first, it says, "V'hefetz Hashem ma'aschem ba'ama." Hashem is going to scatter you amongst the nations. V'neshartem esei mispah. You're going to wind up as a very small number b'goyim amongst those nations. Hashem eschem shama, where Hashem is going to drag you and going to put you. And what's going to happen? You're going to wind up worshiping gods that are the work of people's own hands. Eitz va'even, wood and stone. Asher lo yirun, they can't see. Lo yishmun, they can't hear. Lo yoichlun, they don't eat. Lo yirichon, they don't smell. And once you will finally realize that, then that will awaken in you a searching and a yearning and a desire for Hashem Alekecha. I know I told a story last Tuesday. A week ago Sunday, did I tell you about that Israeli guy I flagged down? I told you. Right. About the guy, if it was October 8th. I said it in last week's class.
Marriage from after.
Right, but he didn't want to put on tefillin when I told him if it was October 8th, he would have put on tefillin today, right? Okay. When we get hit in the head by a 2x4, all of a sudden, wow, we seek out God. Now, why? Because either consciously or the deep recesses of our spiritual subconscious, we come to realize that this is where the real intense light is. Here it is. This is why I'm here. This is what I was created for. Jews are nuts that way.
I want to clarify that the Galus didn't happen because of the complacency of Sadiqim who were involved in the real life, but more the complacency of the masses not doing further.
Why not? Maybe.
Could you repeat the question?
The trickle-down effect.
Possibly. But
Okay. So the Torah is saying that the Torah is saying that too. Yes. Of course. Everybody's got to relate to it. In other words, don't look at this and only blame it on the tzaddikim. That would also be, no, every one of us has to. I'm saying even the tzaddikim. He's saying, are we really saying that it's the tzaddikim's fault that we're in Golos? No, I'm saying it's even the tzaddikim's fault. Of course not. And that's the power of Tisha B'Av. So now, and the Rebbe says a very interesting thing. The Rebbe says that ultimately, you have to go about it with a simcha. Because if you're not going to go about it with a simcha, you're not going to get the job done. If you're approaching it with a simcha, then you want to just vanquish it. You want to, right? In the simplest form, the janitor who takes his job seriously and loves the opportunity to keep the bathrooms clean. He has a simcha about it. That's his job, right? Go look in that bathroom after he finishes cleaning it. You could eat off the floors. I'm not going to say something more crude that a yeshiva bacha would joke about, but no, I'm not going to make yeshiva bacha jokes about it. But you can eat off the floors, right? But the janitor who has the same job and knows he has to keep it clean. You know, in all the restaurants, they put a little paper on the back of the door. You ever saw in the public toilets that the janitor has to mark when he came in and cleaned it? You know what I'm talking about, right? You've seen that, right? Okay? That guy who just wants to get away with it. He'll mop the floor. You'll open the door. It'll smell okay. But you won't feel comfortable walking in there and going to the bathroom. It doesn't feel. So if your job is to transform the absolute darkest of lights into light, the most concealed light, to reveal it and make it into the revealed light, if you're not going to approach it with a simcha, the Rebbe says, then you're not going to finish the job. You may do some of it, but you're not going to finish the job.
So when Hashem says you didn't serve me with simcha,
Right.
He's really saying you didn't go all the way. Is that what you're saying?
That too, yes. But you have to, your avodah has to be with simcha, because otherwise you won't go all the way. So the Rebbe says, what encourages you to go about it with simcha? And the Rebbe says, you have to recognize, it's a meditation pretty much, the Rebbe says. You have to think to yourself, the world around me is a mess, and it looks awful in the macro and in the micro. In the macro and in the micro. The world around me stinks. Watch me clean this toilet. Because only I can clean it. Because I've been given the ultimate power that no one else, all the tzaddikim of all the generations, etc., didn't have the absolute essential energy of Hashem to actually bring the Geula. What's the proof that they didn't?
Here.
That's right. They didn't. That's how you know it didn't. And Hashem has been waiting 5,786 years for Baruch Hecht to finish the job. That's a bad joke. That is a bad joke. It's a sad joke. It's not just a bad joke. It's a sad joke. But it's the truth, says the Rebbe. It's the truth. And because it's the truth, Baruch Hecht needs to know. Go to the farmer's market. Make them crazy. Drag the people in. I had a guy this past Sunday who I'd put on phone with him the previous Sunday. He came by, an older guy, a little bit off, etc. I said, come on, go put on phone. No, I'm not putting on phone today. I said, why not? You did it last week. Why would you do it today? He said, no, last week you put on the phone with me and then you blew me off. So 3 other guys walked over. And this guy wants to sit and plopple. He wants to talk for an hour. If you want to stand there and wait while I put on the phone with them, I'll go back to talking to you afterwards, but I had more customers. He said, you blew me off. You found people you like better. I said, I didn't like them better. You had already put on film, and I needed to put on film with them too. It wasn't better. It was more of the same. So he looked at me. He was still kind of angry, and he goes, okay. Even on film again. Go make yourself crazy. Why? Because you are standing in 5786, empowered in the ultimate darkness to be able to bring the true revelation. You're the guy that Moshe Rabbeinu stood on Har Nevoy and went, wow. Check out Yonatan Firustala. Check him out. Wow. What a guy. And when you realize that, you go, okay, let's have it. Let's have it. Here we go.
Clean the toilet.
That's the whole Torah reading. That's Tisha B'Av in a nutshell. That's the way we need to approach Tisha B'Av. That's the way we need to approach the last 24 hours as we get ready for Tisha B'Av.
But Rabbi, you're in that unique position. But for myself, I still have a lot to work on myself.
No, don't waste time working on yourself. Work on other people. I gave up working on myself. You know my joke about with the viewers of our class? That I'm working on my third million followers? Did you know that, Yoshua? I'm working on my 3rd million already. I gave up on the first 2. Forget about the first 2. Let's work on the 3rd one. Okay? Stop worrying about you. I gave up worrying about me. Because you want to know why? And I embrace it. I gave up worrying about me because I know I'm a lost cause. So I'm going to stop wasting time worrying about me. But I know that even though I'm a lost cause, Hashem still wants me to finish the job. Moshe Rabbeinu is still looking in awe at me. And Hashem has empowered me, the loser, who can't get his own act together. And he's empowered me, and only you, and only you, and only you, and only you. And all you guys back there, you too, to bring Mashiach now. Wow. That should make you want to get up and dance. That's the Rebbe says that's the way you should be approaching this. And I mentioned this morning in my podcast, the same concept carries forth to the 10 Commandments. Moshe Rabbeinu's repetition of the 10 Commandments, he repeats, comes on the heels of, he repeats again for the 15th time that we defeated Sichon and Og. How many times are you going to talk about that? You know? The Chicago Cubs won the World Series, I think, like 15 years ago. After not winning it for like 90 years, something like that. They finally won. Right? So Chicago Cubs fans, go meet a Chicago Cubs fan, which I do. How are the Cubs looking? They roll their eyes. Right? But they won the World Series 15 years ago, whenever it was. So why does Moshe keep talking about Sichon and Og, Sichon and Og, Sichon and Og, Sichon and Og? Just keep repeating it. It's not like the one time they won the World Series. And the reason he keeps repeating it is because he's showing them, guess what? You did it. Till that point, you weren't sure if you could actually do it. So when he repeats the 10 Commandments, they have a completely different context, a completely different view. Your frame of reference is different. Matan Torah was theoretical. Ooh, these are great ideas. Conquer Sichon and Og. No, it's not good ideas anymore. This is real. It's real life. This is real life.
Can you give us a little bit more practical?
I didn't give you enough practical,
No,
I think.
it's amazing. It's all. I understand everything.
Go ahead.
But what's more practical examples in our lives, other than I understand that
You will never
example is
grow.
everyone-
You will never grow. You will never grow spiritually and in your connection to Hashem as much as when you have Ahavat Yisrael for another Jew. Your own spiritual fulfillment. You will never, nothing you can possibly do will provide you with spiritual fulfillment as much as having obviously sought for another yet. And that manifests itself physically, spiritually, emotionally. Whether it's giving him tzedakah because he needs help, or helping him schlep his packages, or whether it means putting on tefillin with him and making sure he has mezuzahs on his doors and teaching him Torah, or whether it's just emotional, he needs a hug.
Telling him to watch this cue.
What's this?
That includes your spouse.
What's this here?
Huh?
That includes your spouse.
Of course. That goes without saying.
Very good.
So let's finish this because I'm not talking about the class. Let's finish Golos. We're finishing the class. Yes, we're going to finish the class now. But let's finish Golos. Let's finish Golos. It's intolerable anymore. Genugschein. Genugschein. Let's all get up and do what we're supposed to do. Chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom. Mashiach's not here. By tomorrow, the Tanit starts at 8 o'clock. If you're paying attention here in Brentwood, we're going to do Mincha at 6 tomorrow. If you're around, please come so we can get a quick Mincha in and out so everyone can go home and eat. The Tanit starts at 8:01, and then we meet again at 8:30 tomorrow night for the reading of Eicha, Arvit, and the Book of
Can
Lamentations.
you cooked foods before an hour before the Tani?
No, that's not so. Fish you're not supposed to eat because it makes you thirsty. So you're not, the last meal, your dinner shouldn't include fish. And no meat in the 9 days. Right. Or parv, tofu.
And also no meat Friday. I read somewhere.
Till noon.
Until noon.
Till noon, yeah. Yeah, 1. So, right, 1 o'clock. And then so Ashkenazim have a custom, I don't know what Sephardim do, that right before the fast you have what's called Sudam of Seket, a meal that's egg, ash, and bread, only.
And it's on like the floor, right?
Yes. And you have to finish that before 8 o'clock.
Who's custom?
It's an Ashkenazi custom. Yeah.
Ashes are disgusting.
But you don't even taste them. And the fast continues until no tefillin Thursday morning. Tefillin is instead at mincha on Thursday afternoon. That's when you put on your tefillin and your talis. So may it be a joyous.
It's gonna be hot.
Yes, drink a lot of water tomorrow. But at my age, water is only borrowed. And if you didn't get that joke, that's even better. Yes, but drink a lot of water. And the main thing, we should be in the Geula right now. We shouldn't have any of this fast. Tomorrow we should be sitting and eating Shira Bar and Leviasan at the Beis Hamikdash, the party to end all parties. L'chaim, l'chaim.